Boom, and we're off. Hi, everyone. Welcome on this Sunday, August 24th, 2025. Bad anniversary. I don't even know why I'm pointing it out, but I don't know. This is before your time, but today's the 33rd anniversary of Hurricane Andrew hitting South Florida. Just popped into my head because August 24th is a very famous day.
How about that?
Collinelli, who's joining me, deputy editor of Miami Dolphins on SI, wasn't even born at that time.
No, it was not. That was, oh man, math is hard. 8 years before I was born. There we go.
Wow. So anyway, we're not here to talk about Hurricane Andrew. It was not fun times. Anyway, we are here to talk about the Miami Dolphins preseason finale, a 14-6 victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where, as you always, the best thing was preseason's over. We like to do our due diligence here on the All Dolphins podcast, so we will recap everything we saw, discuss where things are right now, the injury status, and a lot of it also is covered on the website, MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com, where myself, my man here, Dante Collinelli, deputy editor, does some fabulous work. I do okay work, but I pretend, and sometimes I pass it off as I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, before we get into it, as always, a reminder, please like, subscribe, comment also. Disagree. Love disagreements, people. I don't want anybody to just say, yep. Love disagreements. Try to be polite if you're going to disagree. Never aspired to be in the circus, and being called a clown doesn't necessarily do a whole lot for me. If you feel that way, by all means, but not going to get me to respond very much but being called a clown. So even though you think some of my takes may be way out there. So anyway, without further ado, and welcome. Thanks for being with us here. Dante, other than the fact that preseason's over, what was your biggest takeaway from this game last night?
Last night's game was a bit of a snooze fest, if we're being honest, as far as action on the field's concerned, just a bit. The whole second half, there was the opening drive touchdown led by Zach Wilson, and the rest of the second half, nothing happened really until John Sanders had that interception to kind of cap things off. So I think you saw a lot of preseason stuff getting worked out on the offensive side of the ball. It was just kind of a sloppy operation, even when Tua was in there and 4 of your expected 5 starting offensive linemen. A lot of context around that, right? No Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle played 5-6 snaps tops. I don't even think he was in on the last drive, if I'm not mistaken. Not, a lot of context. Devon Achane not playing. Ollie Gordon looked good. So the offensive operation, probably not where you want it to be, no matter who was at quarterback, frankly. But like you said, the preseason's over. It was a sloppy, typical preseason game all around. I think you saw some good things from the starting defensive line early. They got a week to kind of iron out some things, but I think the biggest takeaway for me was after watching them, I understood why so many starters played in this game. They needed to get the reps together, frankly.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway actually might have been where the hell was Jason Sanders? And as it comes out, turns out he gets tweaked something in pregame warmups. Mike McDaniel's comment about Jason Sanders related to what Sanders told him, which was basically he's not concerned about week 1, which is great and dandy, except, whoa, what happened there? Somebody's typing something. There we go. That would be who?
Me. I'm trying to look up free agent kicker.
Okay, that was I actually
did that free agent kickers.
Greg Deleg's still out there.
Yeah.
Zane Gonzalez, Eddie Pinero, Dan Carpenter still out there. Oh, sorry.
Matt Prater.
Oh yeah, Matt Prater. He's 43 or something.
Matt Prater, Austin Seibert, Cade York. Yeah, not good options. So hopefully, Matt Prater is probably the best option on there. But like he's 41. So
41. Okay. Well, and here's the thing: is players tend to be overly optimistic in situations like this. Not to suggest that what Sanders told Mike McDaniel is not accurate, but certainly it's a situation to monitor at the very least. And then my other biggest takeaway was this is a game, and I hate this part of. There are many reasons I don't like the preseason. I guess it's a necessary evil. Please cut it to 2 games at most. But you have a situation where the Dolphins are using all their starters, and Jacksonville's DNP list is 7 miles long. It's really tough to come away like satisfied with anything that happens for the Dolphins unless it's complete domination. Like if you remember in 2022, they played the Eagles in a same set of circumstances. The Eagles didn't play anybody. Dolphins had all their guys, and they won 48-10. And when Tua was there, it was like boom, 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 boom down the field. Last night, it was like it took the third drive after 2 3-and-outs for the offense again to the end zone, and it took a 4th down conversion where in the regular season, 4th and 6 from the Jacksonville 46. Not 100% sure they go for it. And again, is this a precursor to what we're going to see in the regular season? But again, in Tua's 2 appearances, it's very, very small, but it's nothing but short pass. There's been nothing downfield. Of course, this is where somebody's going to say, and rightfully so, well, Tyreek's not in there, dummy, clown. See, there you go. I'm allowed to say it to myself. Nobody else. How's that? And yeah, but last year, even when Tyreek was on the field, there weren't a whole lot of shots down the field. Is this that's going to happen in 2025, which is great when it's working? The only problem is it creates a longer drive, creates more opportunities for mistakes such as a sack or a penalty. That was my biggest takeaway, was almost a no-win situation for the first-team offense, and it's hard to leave that game feeling great about what the first-team offense did. I know you put in all the caveats, and yeah, but still.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're gonna do a thumbs up, thumbs down article on SI. Be on the lookout for that. And here's a spoiler: the first team offense is thumbs down, right? Like overall, it's not a good performance, right? It didn't look. The Dolphins were missing players, yes, but like you rightfully pointed out, I mean, Jacksonville sat most of their second string players. Mm-hmm. Like this was the third string Jacksonville defense, and the Dolphins just didn't seem connected, right? It was like small mistakes. It was a miscommunication that led to a sack on from Larry Borum. I'm not sure like if he slid the wrong way or if he wasn't sure what the right play call was. I'm not really sure. I'll have to watch a bit more of that tape, but they had that play. Jonas Savania was downfield on a screen. That wiped out a decent gain, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was a little penalty. There was a couple deflections at the line. The second sack was like a couple of things. James Daniels was like a step late to pull to the outside to actually bobbled the snap a bit. So he was a step off on a timing route. And then he went to step up, and I haven't seen the all 22 of that play yet, but he had time to throw. So I'm guessing that either the receivers weren't turned around where they were supposed to be, or they were covered, right? Because I think people were like, James Daniels, I can't believe he missed that sack. It's like, well, Tua did his job. He stepped up and he bought a couple extra seconds, but either nobody was open downfield or Tua didn't like it, and so he ate it. So I didn't really think like that second sack was that big of a deal. I think the receivers might have just been covered, but we'll see. But ultimately, I agree with you. It was not a good performance from the air quotes starting offense, right? Like it wasn't. They did not look connected. They didn't look on time. They did not look like a group of players who had practiced together extensively for the past 3 weeks. And even that, like you said, that last drive, I mean, Malik Washington scores on a 25-yard touchdown where he jukes Chad Muma into next week. I don't think Chad Muma is going to be on the Jaguars in 2 days. So, again, Malik Washington was good. I'm glad that they bounced back. They stuck with it. That's all good, but it should be a smoother operation at this point in the process. So, like, my level of concern is very low, if I'm being honest, but there is a level of concern, even if it is it's pretty low.
Okay. Let's give props where props are due. Some of the guys who impressed me, and then you can add to the list or just say what he said. That works too. Ollie Gordon, again, to me, looked good. Looks really, really good. There's definitely something there. Now, I'm not going to predict a 1,000-yard season in case Devon Achane is limited, but there's something there, and the guy's got a lot of promise. Malik Washington clearly is a really, really nice player. And if there were any doubt, he's going to, as I tweeted last night, that he's going to be the third wide receiver option. I think we're crazy to think anything other than that. Nick Westbrook-Akine, again, was not targeted, but let's give him his props. He did a very nice job blocking, including down the field on Malik's touchdown. There was another play where he provided a nice block. I'm trying to remember if it was a running play or it was a pass play. It escapes me right now. Those are three guys who jumped out to me on the Dolphin offense. Defensively, I'm trying to think if anybody really jumped out at me, and I can't think of anybody because Jacksonville again was using all. I mean, John Wolford and Seth Hennigan were the two quarterbacks, and none of the skill position players also were even notable players. And Jacksonville did move the ball a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit, and it wasn't a dominant effort. I mean, Bradley Chubb and John Phillips combined for a sack at one point, right after I tweeted, "Why the hell are they still in the game?" I mean, it was great that they got to celebrate a sack, but at that point, it was like, what's the point?
Yeah, I remember thinking that when because like Chop Robinson was still in the game with like 9 minutes to play in the second quarter, and I was just like, what are we doing? Why is he? It was like him, Jordan Phillips, Matt Butler, and like Matt Dickerson was like the other end, and I was like, why is the Chop still in the game? But I agree with all of your polls, and I think to your point on Washington and Nick Westbrook-Akine, I think you just saw like how good those two players kind of complement each other in a lot of ways, right? Where like, you know, you both have players who I think are going to operate primarily from the slot position, right? Assuming Tyreek Hill's healthy and Jalen Waddle's healthy, I think in an ideal scenario, you have a big slot and then you have a more traditional slot in Malik Washington. And I think what's interesting about Washington specifically, if you watch a lot of his touches, you look back at the Bears game and you look at last night's game, he seems like the player who's going to eat up a lot of the Jonnu Smith touches, right? The short area, dump offs, running routes over the ball type of stuff. And then I think you have Nick Westbrook-Akine, as you pointed out, and somebody that I've been very high on for his ability to block in the run game. I think you've seen that during the preseason. I'm sure he'll get a couple of, jump balls downfield just because he's a big guy and he can do that for you. So I think those players complement each other really well. I think the name on defense that I'll bring up that I don't know that like the tape was overly impressive from like a performance perspective, but I really liked how Jason Marshall Jr. handled a lot of different responsibilities from the slot last night. They brought him on a blitz. He defended the run. He played some man. He played some zone. I caught him in the middle of the field as a robber type player. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know like how good or bad necessarily the film was. I haven't been able to dig into it yet, but I liked how many responsibilities he was getting. And it looks like he might be the starting slot week one. Like it really seems like that way. Yeah. And so we'll see how it works out. I'm sure there will be growing pains. This is a day 3 rookie, but generally speaking, that's a huge hit for the Dolphins. If he's even just like an average cornerback, like that's a huge hit for, he was a 5th round pick right off the top of my head, a 5th round pick, Jason Marshall. So like, that's a huge hit. If you get an average corner in the 5th round, like that's really big, especially for a team that, doesn't have any healthy above average corners right now, at least ones that we know of. We'll see. Maybe Storm Duck is that guy. He just hasn't played enough football for us to know, right? I'm not saying he won't be. I don't know. Jack Jones was 2 years ago. We don't know what he is yet. So Jason Marshall would probably be the name that I would add to the list. I thought he did a nice job just kind of bouncing between different roles.
Yeah, and now that Eric Izukama also had a really nice catch in traffic on that fourth down zip by Zach Wilson. And we'll talk about the other two quarterbacks at some point as well before we attack our comments segment, as we always do here on the Live All Dolphins podcast shows. The flip side to Jason Marshall Jr. to me is very interesting, and it's Mike Hilton. Yeah. And Anthony Weaver was asked very specifically about why was he kept out of the Detroit game, and it's basically, well, we know what he can do. Well, based on his usage, you know what he can do, but you're clearly not impressed because last night, for example, he did play. He played like a very low number of snaps, and it was after Jason Marshall Jr. went in the game. Yeah. So I'm very weirded out by what the Dolphins are doing with Mike Hilton. My guess is based on how I've seen them used at practice and in the preseason game, understanding we have certain limitations in terms of first-team reps, second-team reps, and all that, per the Miami Dolphins reporting policy. I'm telling you, I don't see how he's not getting cut. It's very, very weird to me because early on in training camp, he actually was doing some good things with his blitzing in coverage. I know last year the coverage in Cincinnati was not good. That was part of an issue and part of why new defensive coordinator Al Golden did not express a strong desire to get him re-signed. That plus he wanted to get younger in the secondary. So, and I'll give you another one here, and we're going to stick to the secondary in terms of guys who were on the bubble, didn't help their cause, and the one who jumps out to me is Patrick McMorris,
who I saw miss 2 like open field tackles, and that's not good for a guy who's on the bubble. I don't think you want to be doing that.
He feels like a practice squad guy, right? Yeah. They try to bring him back on the practice squad, especially with some of the injuries that they have at safety. He feels like a good hedge just to kind of have if you need it. But I agree. I don't know that he makes the 53.
And speaking of safeties, because I'm only mentioning this because it was brought up on my Twitter feed when I put a comment about Shiloh Sanders being waived by the Bucs, and I pleaded for folks, can we not make a big deal? The guy was a rookie free agent, and on top of that, he takes a swing at a Buffalo player in the open field yesterday, gets ejected, and we're supposed to act like it's a big surprise that he got cut. And somebody's asking me, like, how about the Dolphins picking him up? And I'm like, why? No.
Yeah, no. I think what people forget about Shiloh Sanders is that his tape at Colorado was terrible. And so, I mean, I think John Saunders is like significantly better than Shiloh Sanders. So, no, thank you. I'm good.
I'll pass. Come back next round. And speaking of that, this is where I should promote I did my final Miami Dolphins initial 53-man roster. And I say initial because there is no such thing as a final roster in September because there will be moves. In fact, there'll be moves made on Wednesday, the day after the deadline, which is 4 p.m. on Tuesday, because teams will adjust. So a reminder in advance as to the rules, particularly when it comes to injured reserve or PUP. PUP, you cannot be placed on PUP if you practice at any point in training camp. Liam Eichenberg is the one Dolphin player on PUP. He started on PUP in training camp, has remained there. Come Tuesday at 4 p.m., the Dolphins have 3 options. They can waive Liam. They can activate him to the 53-man roster. Or, no, actually, they had 4 options. They could put him on reserve PUP, which knocks him out of the season, and put him on active PUP, which means he's out for the first 4 weeks of the regular season, and then doesn't count against the 53. With IR, every team can designate on Tuesday 2 players to return later in the season, and then those players don't count against the 53. After the 53 is set, then each team has 8 designations during the season for players to return from IR, again, provided they were on the initial 53. Anybody placed on IR before Tuesday is out for the season, unless, of course, there's an injury settlement, and then there are rules. I believe it's the equivalent of the number of games of the injury settlement plus 3 games if you're going back to your former team and 0 games if you're going to another team. Something along those lines. I remember doing that when the Dolphins had DJ Fluker on IR, and then people were asking me, well, could he come back? And then I double-checked on the rules. Those are the rules. So where was I going with this? Oh, and so quick injury overview here because Mike McDaniel addressed certain players. With Jalen Wright, this is alarming to me, and maybe I'm an alarmist by nature, but he said we're exploring procedural options when it comes to his injury. Well, if you have to evaluate options of what to do for a procedure, I don't know, that doesn't sound good to me. And he also said it's weeks.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd be pretty surprised if he plays week 1 at this point, and it might go further than that, right? So, like, obviously can't put him on PUP.
Correct.
So we'll see. If he is down, though, I do think they need to add another back to that room of some, if it's a waiver cut or if it's a free agent who's kind of been waiting to sign until a little bit later. I don't know what that looks like per se off the top of my head, but I am not optimistic about Jalen Wright being around for the beginning portion of the season. I think it'll probably extend past 1 week just based on what Mike McDaniel said. And that's a tough break for a player who, I mean, was really fighting for his life at RB2 and just like didn't really get a chance to make a final statement. You'd have to think that he probably would have started last night and got significant run before they went to Ollie Gordon. So just a really tough break for a player who I think, you know, even though the rushing numbers don't look great from the preseason, I think he clearly improved his body and the way that he handled the running back position in general. And it just hasn't really worked out for him. So a tough break for him. And then for the Dolphins, probably have to think about adding another name to that room unless you want to rely on Aaron Champlin or Mike Boone. And to me, that doesn't seem overly likely.
I will give you one spoiler alert for my final roster projection, but you have to promise you're going to go read it on MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com. Content is all free, by the way. And my spoiler alert is I had Jalen Wright starting the season on IR. Again, this is maybe it's me reading too much into it, but again, the phrasing of we're evaluating the procedural options to deal with his injury, which was to a leg. Again, that to me, that screams he's not available for the beginning of the season. So I could be completely off. Wouldn't be the first time. I'm going to beat you guys to that. And it won't be the last, but that would be my guess here. Devon Achane still dealing with the calf injury. Kind of the feeling is they're thinking he's going to be ready for the start of the regular season. Jordan Brooks turns out he's going to be fine. He wanted to play last night. Mike McDaniel told him, yeah, no, we're good. You can sit. Darren Waller warmed up. Big development. He warmed up before the game against the Jaguars on Saturday night. Did not participate in the game. Mike McDaniel said he wanted him to go through that process, and he's excited to see him at practice this upcoming week. So we shall see what that looks like. And by the way, the scheduling note for those who care about such things, the Dolphins will be practicing this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, per the CBA. Every team, every player is off. I guess that does not apply to the teams who don't play on Saturday or Monday the following week, but they're off for Labor Day weekend before they get back to work on Labor Day itself and begin their preparations for the Colts coming up in week 1. Outside of that, and I did a complete rundown of all the injuries. So I'll stop right there. I did a complete rundown of all the injuries on MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com. Trying to think here, anything else that we need. Oh, the backup quarterbacks. Again, it was kind of the same with Zach Wilson. A couple of really, really nice throws and a couple like the 2-point conversion from, what was it, the 12-yard line or whatever after a penalty. Maybe the 7.
Roughly the same throw he missed against Chicago.
Always.
Yeah, it's that.
Put some air under it.
Yeah, it's I will say this for Zach though, like from a process perspective, maybe not results perspective. I thought this was the most comfortable he looked running the Dolphins offense.
I agree.
And so far as he still took at least one sack that I think was probably on him. I'm not 100% sure of the second one that he took. I think the one before the half was on him that kind of pushed that Jake Bailey field goal attempt from like a 30-ish yarder to a 50-plus yardish.
Attempt's a very polite word.
He got it there. It had the length. It wasn't exactly straight. He kicked it. I didn't think he was going to reach the goalpost. So he hit that thing about 55 yards. It just wasn't near the uprights, unfortunately. But getting back to Zach, like I think from a comfortability perspective, he looked a lot less like skittish to me. Like he looked a little bit more firm where he was going to go with the football. Some of the throws, not great. He sailed, like one of his first throws, he sailed a seam ball that, like, I think if he threw it on the receiver's body, they might have been getting stretchered to a local hospital because the safety was he was going to lay that guy out. Like I don't remember who the receiver was on the play, but
Taj actually.
Was it Taj? Yeah, Taj might have been stretchered out of the stadium if that ball was put anywhere near his frame. So I'm almost happy that Wilson sailed that one. That was a hospital ball. I think he looked more comfortable though, and I think that matters a little bit more for the preseason. But I'm sure you feel the same way. I think to steal a phrase from Joe Philbin, I'm a little queasy about backup quarterbacks still.
No, I agree. Trust me, I know you're a Zach hater. So
but look, what has he done to inspire confidence in me? What has he done?
No, that's fair. And again, to me, I've seen a few throws where it's like, I'm sorry, he's the only one on the roster who makes that throw. Again, because the arm strength is completely different than the other two quarterbacks. And the thing is, I keep pushing back, and some people already think of me as a Tua hater, and I'm going to be a Ewers hater. And I've said I see a lot of similarities in the way they play. It's kind of the same game. It's stylistically they're very, very similar. But please stop with the notion that Quinn Ewers should be the number 2 right now. I'm sorry. First of all, he's got no NFL experience. All he's seen are these vanilla defenses And it's not the same come the regular season. And there also have been times where he's taken sacks where he's also not being indecisive in the pockets. It's not just Zach Wilson who's done that. I think Quinn Ewers actually has shown that in the right system, he's got a future as an NFL quarterback. But can we pump the brakes here on he should be number 2 because Zach is a little bit Okay, he's very inconsistent with his throws. I mean, sorry. I think that's a bridge too far for me. And then what's it going to look like if Zach Wilson has to start a game or two? I don't know. We'll find out. I'm hoping there's going to be a massive step up from New York Jets Zach Wilson, but obviously we won't know until that happens.
Yeah, I think people will call me a Quinn Ewers hater as well. I think Quinn, though, ultimately is like the perfect Tua backup, right? Like long term. I think if he continues to develop and he gets a little bit more comfortable, I think he's like the right player to be the long-term Tua backup. I just don't think it's going to be this year. I think Zach's going to have to not only get into the game in the first place, but also play like pretty poorly for Quinn to see time. And obviously it'll depend on like where the Dolphins are at. If they're already not having a good year, maybe Zach's leash is shorter because it's just like, hey, we're just going to see what Quinn has at that point, right? But yes. I think Quinn is a good investment at backup quarterback, even though I don't particularly think that there's any ceiling to his game beyond that. I don't believe Quinn Ewers has the facilities to be a starting quarterback in the NFL for an extended period of time, and that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And backup quarterbacks might have the best job on earth, really. But for Zach, like, what worries me about Zach is, if he was the QB3, it would be fine, right? Because it's like he's not immediately thrust into action. He's a developmental player with some traits. He can get some time to learn, kind of like what happened in Denver last year. That is appealing to me with Zach. The issue that I have with Zach is that Tua is an oft-injured quarterback. There's a higher than likely chance that he's going to play this year, right? And like, Zach Wilson has never played good football at the NFL level. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how else to like put that. It's just true. You can sit here and talk about the Jets and how bad they were all you want. Like, he still wasn't good either. Like, I don't know. Like these quarterbacks come in and this isn't fair, but it's the nature of the beast. We've seen quarterbacks come in to really bad franchises and they are good enough to elevate those franchises, right? Jaden Daniels did it last year, right? Like, I think you even saw some of that from Drake May in New England. You've seen some of that from, other quarterbacks throughout the years. If you are good enough to make it in the league, it's pretty apparent. And so, like, for Zach, he can develop into a backup. That's fine. I'm not saying it's impossible or that he'll automatically be a disaster, but nothing that he has shown me in the preseason, and there is not a glimmer of hope on his Jets tape either. And he didn't play last year for Denver. I'm sorry, but, tweets from reporters who said, Denver loved him. He was great. They were so sorry to see them go. Why didn't they re-sign him then? They're paying Jared Stidham like $500,000 more a year. Clearly, they didn't like Zach Wilson that much. They could have just given him an extra $500,000. It would have been the same thing.
No, and with all due respect, it's Jared Stidham. Sorry, with all due respect. No, and this is what I said at the time of the signing. I would have preferred somebody more established with a better body of work, like a Joe Flacco, like a Andy Dalton, had he been available. I did not want it to go back to Carolina. And then there was a massive leap of faith from Mike McDaniel. And he doubled down on it when he said, that's the guy we targeted all along, basically believing in his ability to extract the most out of his ability. And if Zach Wilson does wind up playing and he falls flat, that's going to be a bad look for Mike McDaniel because he kind of stuck his neck out for that particular move. We are about at the halfway point here. And once again, I want to say thank you for everyone who's joining us. As a reminder, please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. More importantly, read the content on Miami Dolphins on SI.com for free. So let's attack our comments. Always like the comments. My favorite part of the live episodes here. And let's see what we got here. Ooh, I'm trying to get to the top, and there's just so many of them here. Old man Jeb, are we going to get a roster projection today? There's one in writing, Miami Dolphins on SI.com. I'm not going to go through all of it here right now because I don't feel like it. How's that? Broward Dolphins, thank you, Al. No riot needed. I have no idea what that means. Why would there be a riot needed?
Who knows? You never know.
Allen street name is a beat writer I know. I have no idea what that means. And these comments are good, going over my head. Maybe I'm tired or whatever. I mean, going over my head. Any word on Waddle? Is he good? Yeah, Waddle's been on a bit of a pitch count. There was a play in a joint practice in Detroit where he scored a touch on the back of the end zone, got up limping a little bit, holding his back, but it didn't keep him out of practice. He was back later that practice, kind of limiting his snaps, but the dude looked absolutely phenomenal the entire training camp. That dude has looked really, really good. Waddle is a glorified number 3. It's good that you have a troll cartoon under that mask because that's a trolling comment. Sorry. Oh, look at that, Michael, our friend Michael. Hey, Michael, thank you very much. I'm looking for questions. Here we go. No. Michael, Dolphins not looking at this point. Again, it's preseason. Always caution. If the Dolphins were lighting it up, I would caution against. Don't read too much into it. They're not looking at it at this point. Yeah, they've also gone the entire preseason without Tyreek Hill, without Austin Jackson. Devontae Chan's missed the last 2 games. Alec Ingold hasn't played in a bit. Those are semi-important players. Allen's lost his hat. It was on auction in Japan. It's funny. Buy it for me, please, if it's on auction. We need to set the tone week 1. The culture we've been talking about all off season needs to come to life versus Daniel Jones. Dante, give me your thoughts about Daniel Jones. How afraid are you?
I mean, I would rather play him than Anthony Richardson personally. Like as a defensive coordinator, like there is nothing about Daniel Jones that stresses me out even remotely a little bit. I think one of the weirdest things that has happened is that somehow Daniel Jones has been billed as like this stabilizing, consistent presence that like, he's just never been that. Like, did you guys watch the Giants? And to these guys, I mean, the people saying that, not to you guys in chat, like have people did they watch the Giants the past couple of years? Like, where is this consistent, runs the offense, keeps everything on time version of Daniel Jones? I've never seen him. I don't know who this person is. So, look, is Jones more accurate than Anthony Richardson? Yeah, probably. Is he gonna have a higher completion percentage? Yeah, probably. Is he going to throw a 70-yard nuke over your head or run through 3 tackles for 20 yards on 3rd and 10? No and no. So as a defensive coordinator, if I'm Anthony Weaver, I see the Colts name Daniel Jones as starting quarterback. I'm like, great, phenomenal. I'm going to throw the weirdest blitzes that he's ever seen at him in week 1, and I'm going to overwhelm him because that's the player he's been his entire career. And, you can do that to Anthony Richardson too. But with Richardson, there's like a 10% chance that he just stiff arms a linebacker because he's built like a linebacker himself and runs 10 yards downfield, right? So like you don't have to worry about that with Daniel Jones. You hit Daniel Jones, he's going down. So I think the Dolphins are like underdogs, right, against Indianapolis. I mean, it's early.
Weird.
I like Miami in that game, like comfortably. Like I think they're a much better team on paper, but we'll see.
Yeah, and no, you mentioned Anthony Richardson. I was next to him when he was doing, not next, but like close to him when he was doing his combine interview a couple of years ago. That's no joke. That dude is like, whoa,
yeah,
damn, that's a big boy. I mean, dude, that's a big dude. Okay, what do we got here? Marcel Hess, thank you very much for the contribution, partner. Dante's never worn that hat before. LOL, like your Dolphins hat, Mr. Poupart. I have worn the Dolphins hat one time, I believe. Haven't I? I believe. I'm pretty sure I did. I think when we reached 15,000 subscribers, I wore the Dolphins hat. And when we reach 20,000 subscribers, I will wear the Dolphins hat and a Dolphin jersey. So get on the horn, tell your friends, subscribe to that bad boy right here, All Dolphins Podcast. And Dante is repping Temple University.
Go Owls.
There you go. John Chaney. Way before
yes,
you. Here I go with my old man references. Julian, thank you, sir, very much. I think Zach wanted to leave the Broncos because he knew he wasn't going to play with Bo Nix.
That's fair. Like, I think that is a consideration that he made. Like, maybe Zach didn't want to return to Denver. That's completely fair. But, like, he's still, like, if the Broncos really wanted him, they still could have just given him more money. Like, I don't know. Like, was Zach really going to turn down an extra $1 million? If Denver said, you're QB2 in Denver, we're not going to re-sign Jarrett Stidham. We're going to give you an extra, we're going to pay you $6.5 million a year. Was he really going to be like, no, I want to go to Miami? I don't know. That seems a little bit unlikely to me, just personally, but it's fair to bring up. It's fair to consider.
Yeah, but the other part of it too. I mean, did he sign with the Dolphins like thinking Tua was going to get hurt because he only signed a 1-year contract? So who knows? This team is closer to the first overall pick than they are to a playoff win. Allow me to respectfully disagree. I'm not buying that. Sir, are you buying that at all?
No. I tweeted this last week. I don't think the roster is that bad. There's a lot of like ifs and buts and things like that. But like, you look at this roster on paper and I don't like, to me, it's like, this is like an 8, 9, 10 win team, right? On paper. Things have to go right, but I think you can say that about a lot of teams in the league. The Dolphins maybe just a slightly more than others just because they have more injury concerns, but I don't see this as a team that is going to bottom out. Like I think at worst, this is like a 6, 7 win team. I don't think this is like a 3, 4 win team. I really don't.
No, I agree. I'm in the same boat here. Like this one here. Cocktail Dad, hey guys, finally made it to a live show. Thanks for all the hard work. I absolutely never miss an episode. You're a good man, partner. Thank you. I want to address this one here. Sanch, I think the organization staff lost credibility with public comments, tampering, team cohesion, recruiting, tampering. That goes back, that's like, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who you're losing, like who you're saying they're losing credibility with, right? Like I do think that the general perception of the Dolphins right now is that they're a bit unserious. That's like from the national media and like the general like people outside of kind of the Miami bubble don't like they kind of feel like the team's a bit unserious. And I think the tampering allegations, all the stuff about team culture. I mean, even as recently as Mike McDaniel's interview on The Athletic from Jeff Howe, where he said like 5 players occurred more than half of the team's fines. Like I think people see that stuff, and I don't think like players in the league see that stuff and it bothers them. But I do think that like the general zeitgeist maybe doesn't feel great about the vibes in Miami, and I kind of understand that perspective because they've had some like really comical stuff happen, right? Like this idea that like, they tried to have like Tom Brady on a boat with Stephen Ross and like all these different people allegedly, right? And they got a pick taken away from them. Something I don't know that we talk about enough. It's just the first round pick just right out of there.
And a third.
All right. It's like, wow, dude, those are 2 big picks. So like, the Dolphins have I think the perception among, the general zeitgeist is that they're a bit unserious and that they have been for a long time. And so I get where this commenter is coming from. I don't know that it affects their ability to recruit players within the league. I don't know that that's quite where it's at, but I think the draw of playing in South Florida is always going to override that, frankly, for a lot of players. But yeah, I see where the commenter is coming from, I guess.
Okay, fair enough. We already addressed this. Spooky. We should claim Charlotte Sanders off waivers. It's a big no. Thank you for.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Tim the Fin Man. I'm wondering if Raheem Mostert makes the Raiders 53. He only had 4 snaps all preseason. I have not kept up with him. Actually, I usually am very good at keeping up with all the former Dolphin players. With him, not so much as another the fact that they play their games at 10 p.m. all the time. I've actually sent out a text to a Raider connection I have and seeing what the deal is with that. Truth, he wasn't good last year. There were injury issues. He wasn't good. The yards per carry average was really bad. He had the 2 costly fumbles against Buffalo and the Colts. And he's not getting any younger. Having said all that, Raheem's a pretty good dude. But we shall see. Interesting here. Pablo, it's preseason. Why are fans and talking heads so venomous towards this team? I know we won't be the 72 Dolphins, but how about wait until the regular season until we declare the dead? Who's declared the dead? Pablo, we're analyzing what's going on right now. And we're not making any predictions, but what's going on right now is what we're talking about because, again, this is what we have in front of us. I don't think any of us, and literally Dante just finished saying he doesn't see a scenario where this team is going to be atrocious. I've never said that. All I've said all along is this team has good possibilities if, like, their multitude of questions mostly get positive answers. And they're a team that has more questions than your average playoff contenders. Like Buffalo has questions. KC has questions. Every team has questions. The Dolphins just happen to have more than most of your playoff contenders. Okay. I think Miami will beat Indy by 7. Fast start, fast service, stiff Indy QB.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. The Colts. You want to talk about bad vibes? I think the vibes around the Colts are much worse than the vibes around Miami.
Yeah, that decision. That decision did not play well, and it's like, again, you made the guy the 4th overall pick 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, whatever, and in his 3rd season, you're basically saying you prefer going with Daniel Jones. If that doesn't, okay, that's done. The Anthony Richardson experiment is done. Flush it. Might as well trade him because that ship has sailed.
I was gonna say, here's a hot take for you. I would call. I would.
Wow.
I would call. I would. I just call. I just check in. What do they want?
So if they tell you you can have him for a 7 because there's no future here, you would go ahead and trade the 7.
I'd get a speeding ticket sending that card to the office.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Yeah. As you're doing that, as somebody saying, like, who said the Jaguars played only or sat their 1st and 2nd string? I'm going to count the numbers right now. Did not plays. I'm going to try to count fast. 5, 9, 13, 17, 22, 26, 31, 35, 39, 44. They sat 46 players. Does that sound like most of the 2nd and 1st team right there?
That's more than half the roster.
By the way, 2 players who did not play were former Dolphins, Emmanuel Ogbah, and former Dolphins tight end, Hunter Long. Did you know? I was like, he made a play in practice, in the joint practice on Thursday. Buddy John Shipley of Jaguars on SI was watching practice with me going, hey, Hunter Long make another play. And I was, oh, Hunter Long is with the Jaguars. Cool. How about that? And apparently he's like doing some good work for them. So there you go. So Jacksonville sat out pretty much. Again, 46 players.
It's half the roster. 90-man roster, 46 players.
Okay, you missed. Were you a math major at Temple? Pretty impressive. Impressive work right there. Very impressive work right there. And not even a math major. Love that. Birthday Salami. That guy's a good dude. Thank you, Birthday Salami, and a great handle name too. Any chance Judon can block? No, but he can play. That guy's a good player. Marsalis, sorry, Mr. Poupart, sorry I wasn't clear. I meant the hat hasn't been worn before the stream, like you when you pulled out the Dolphins hat. Oh, got it. Okay. I don't know what that means, but okay. Thank you, Marsalis. I could see us having a top 5 defense. Here's the thing is, and what happens when you're watching only one team practicing against each other, and they're practicing against, say, possibly an offense that's missing players, or an offense that has a shaky offensive line, and the defensive line or the edge defenders start getting to the quarterback, you can get a warped, overinflated opinion of that offensive line or that front 7. And I think that partially is what has happened with the Dolphins, where the pass rushing potential with the 4 of Chubb, Phillips, and Matthew Judon is highly highly intriguing. But I think to immediately suggest this could be a top 5 defense, I think it's a little bit much for me. Where were they 10th last year when you had Jalen Ramsey, a cornerback, and Kendall Fuller, who's a good, solid veteran, who's probably be the second best, would be the best cornerback on this roster right now. So again, yeah, there is potential. And then also because top people have talked about how much or the 3 rookie defensive tackles, Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, and Zeke Biggers flashing at times, doesn't mean they're all going to kick ass immediately as rookies. That's a major ask. So I think I would probably suggest we lower the expectations a little bit. To me, if it's a top 15 defense in the NFL, I think that would be good.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'm concerned about, right, is the secondary. Like, I think the front seven's really solid. Like, even if you are asking a lot of some rookies, I think that at worst you have Zach Sealer there. I think you have a nice edge rusher group. I really like the linebacker group as well. So to me, like, the front seven, I think can be very good. I think the ceiling of the front seven can be a top 5 front seven. What worries me is the back half, right? And it's just unknown, right? Like it's not even me like trying to hate on those guys. Like I don't know a lot about Storm Duck. I don't know what Jack Jones is going to look like in a different zone type defense. I don't know how well Jason Marshall's going to handle the bumps of a season if he's the starting corner and they don't keep Mike Hilton. I like Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think the film last year was still good, even though he had some mistakes. I don't know who's going to play next to him. I like Elijah Campbell as a depth player. I don't think he's an NFL caliber starter. I'm sorry. I like him as a depth player. He's been a great option for the Dolphins. They should keep him, but if he's starting week 1 because of, Ashton Davis is out or Ife Melifonwu or whatever's going on, like I don't love that. Melifonu's a player that I like on tape, but he doesn't play a lot of football, and he's been a little bit banged up already in the preseason. I know he played last night and whatever, but like there's just a lot of question marks in the secondary, and I think the Dolphins are going to design a defense in which those guys are protected as much as humanly possible. That's why they invested so much in the front seven and are putting a lot of their resources into that group to protect the secondary. But it's going to be tough. Those guys are going to make mistakes. They're going to get burned. The Dolphins are going to play a lot of really good receivers this year. So top 5 might be pushing it for me, but I do think Anthony Weaver has a lot of juice as a defensive coordinator, and I do think that there's a lot of talent in the front seven. So I think this defense can be good. I really do. I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of talent. And I think Anthony Weaver is a good play caller. So a lot of pieces are in place, but you got to get something from the back half of the defense, or it's not going to work, frankly.
Well said. Can't nothing to add. That was well said. Sanch again. 2 are playing 2 drives against second team D in the preseason is wild. It was actually 3 drives. First 2 were 2 and out, 3 and out. Usually. Jonnu Smith will be missed. You sure about that?
I mean,
generally, I say this as a fellow Florida International University alum. Not so sure about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's talented, right? So, like, from an overall talent perspective, like he's talented. I think but his role is very replaceable. We talked about it earlier on the show. Like, I think a lot of those touches can go to Malik Washington. I think some of those can go to Devon Achane, assuming he's healthy. I think you have a lot of options to kind of, to steal a term from Moneyball, recreate Jonnu Smith in the aggregate if you need to.
I concur. Tim says if Austin Jackson doesn't start week 1, we could be in trouble. It would be less than ideal.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. It would certainly be less than ideal. Yes.
No, and I asked Mike on, when was it? Might have been Tuesday on the Zoom, if there was any concern about him, if he was still confident that Austin would be ready for week 1. And he said everything is progressing. There have been no setbacks. And yes. Daniel Jones is worried. Trust me. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. This is an interesting here. Tua is the best quarterback on the roster. Under McDaniel's offense, if the playbook didn't require reciting a dissertation per play, I'm sure there would be better results. Would there be, though?
Tua's the best quarterback on the roster, they could be running the triple option, and I still think he'd be better than the other quarterbacks on the roster right now. So I don't think it's a playbook thing at all. I think Tua gets way too much crap for that. Personally, I think he's a good NFL quarterback at the end of the day. And could the Dolphins cut down on the verbiage? I mean, like, maybe, but I think people overlook that, like, there are trade-offs for things, right? Like, one of the reasons the Dolphins offense works so well is because they confuse defenses, and that requires motions and different alignments and sub packages and personnel groupings, and that requires verbiage. Like, there are trade-offs. Like, you can't just have, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It can't be, we want to confuse defenses and also call simple plays. That's not how that works. Can't do it. So I think that you just kind of have to take, the Dolphins are going to have a few delay games. I don't want to tell you, it's going to happen. But if it also results in, more 60-yard touchdowns, I think it's fine. I'm okay with that. So I think it's just kind of, you have to have the balancing act. And last year, it was a little bit too many delay of games and not enough 60-yard touchdowns. But we've also seen the flip side of that in previous years. So,
no, that's an excellent point you make. If it's going to be confusing for the defense, it's going to, at times, maybe a little confusing for the offense. But yeah, and that's part of the whole deal. Marcellus, again, thank you very much, Marcellus. Appreciate it. This team has a lot of problems, Mr. Poupart. You can call me Alain, Marcellus. We're friends. At best, it will win. It will 9-10 wins. A worst-case scenario might have a purge. I think the ceiling might be, I'm willing to go as far as 11 wins if, again, a lot of the answers are positive. There was a comment here I wanted to bring up by suggesting, David, Darren Waller is a waste of time. He'll never see the field. I can't find. There it is, David Pridham. I don't know. I was heading toward that line of thinking last week before he was activated off PUP. He still hasn't done anything in terms of like actual practice. And the truth is, we will not know technically until September 4th. September 3rd, which is a Wednesday, how much he does at practice, because from now on we're in regular season mode in terms of the practice and media coverage, which means we will be allowed to watch stretching and then individual drills. And that's not really practice per se. And then after that, we're kicked out and we will not eyeball anything or have something official until that Wednesday when the Dolphins have to produce an injury report, which includes player participation in practice. Yeah. But no, I still think right now I'm still expecting him to be a member of the roster in week 1. And it would be highly disappointing if we weren't, because right now you don't have a great viable option as a backup at that spot, because Tanner Connor is okay, but he's kind of dropped too many passes for me in the preseason for that type of player.
I've just resigned myself to the fact that tight end is just not going to be a thing this year until Darren Waller proves me wrong. Like that, I am at the point now where, frankly, I don't care about how many passes they catch. Do they block? Is the answer yes? If they block well, I'm fine. Like, that's where I'm at with the Dolphins tight end room. They have just not been able to figure it out under Mike McDaniel. They just really haven't. And we'll see. Maybe Darren Waller proves me wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to have a dynamic pass-catching tight end. That'd be great. That'd be phenomenal. I'd be overjoyed. But I'm at the point now where it's just like anything you get from Waller to me is icing on the cake. I'm significantly more concerned with Pharaoh Brown's not great preseason performances and the fact that Julian Hill hasn't played much in the preseason either. So I'm more worried about that. Whatever Darren Waller does, great. I hope it works out. But honestly, I have no idea where that's going to go.
Well, and here's the point I was going to make. By the way, I just got my reply. I asked Raiders buddy of mine, not sure. I asked him, is Most Dirt in danger of not making the 53? Was told, not sure. I'd say danger, but some doubt for sure. So there you go. Here's a point I would make about the tight end position. Under Mike McDaniel, when was the Dolphins offense at its best? 2022 and 2023,
or 2024? The answer clearly is A. And in A, do we even know how many catches the leading receiver among tight ends got? It wasn't a whole lot. Last year, Jonnu, 88 catches, and the offense took a step back. So I don't know that the Dolphins need for the tight end to be a big part of the offense, particularly if it's going to come at the cost of chucking it downfield to Tyreek and Waddle. So to me, I don't know that it's a massive deal. And like you said earlier, Malik Washington can eat up some of those Jonnu targets and let's get some more back to Tyreek and Waddle. And there you go. There are your Jonnu catches.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Oh, somebody agrees. Michael agrees with me. Mike Hilton's getting cut. You're right, Alan. That's why I like Michael. YouTube thumbs 76. Okay. Do the Dolphins keep 3 or 2 quarterbacks? Cleveland GM say they are keeping 4 quarterbacks, while there is, to me, 0.00000% chance that they don't keep 3. I would be floored if they wound up cutting one of them.
Yeah, they have to keep 3. Too many injury concerns. Even Zach Wilson has gotten injured like a bit with the Jets and stuff. Like, no, you need to have 3. They have to.
And Quinn Ewers showed more than enough in training camp for the Dolphins to believe in his ability to develop a good quarterback.
I agree. I think he's been fine for a 7th round pick rookie. I think he's been fine. Like, that's good. I'll take it.
Yeah, he's not. And this is where I'm going to tell you, having seen every single practice of training camp, he hasn't been maybe quite as lights out as some in the media might have you suggest, or fans who attended some practices, but he's been very solid. What do we got here? Oh, Salami, dude, thank you so much. Very, very much appreciated. The $50 donation here. Very nice. Dolphins have operated like a guy dating with low self-esteem. They either throw a bunch of money at the pretty girl, players that don't fit team identity or culture, or they go after the single mom with red flags, sign the over the hill gang. Oh, that's pretty good.
That's funny.
That's pretty good. And
that's funny.
No, and that this is the part where somebody might say it's funny because it's true. But here's the thing, though, the way they operated, especially once they hired Mike McDaniel as head coach, and even before that, once they began the rebuilding with 2019, which you want to call it a tanking year, rebuilding, reset, whatever you want to call it. But it's very difficult for me to find fault with the approach in terms of the team building, which was accumulate draft picks up the wazoo, clear up salary cap space. Then they had 5 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2020, 4 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2021. That should be your nucleus foundation of the team. And then supplement that. You trade for Tyreek, you sign Teron Armstead, you trade for Bradley Chubb, you trade for Jalen Ramsey. I mean, that accumulation of what should have been high in town there really should have gotten you to where you want to go or close to it.
Right.
And it didn't happen.
Well, it's process versus results, right? Like, not to steal a Mike McDanielism, right? Like, the process, I agree with you, I think was right. I think they did a great job, right? Like, this team was terrible during that tank period. And I know that they haven't won a playoff game, and I know that it isn't what fans want it to be. And I understand that. I'm in the same boat. It's not what it should be. I agree. Not a bad football team the past couple of years. They're not. Like, even last year where things were not great, they had a chance to make the postseason on last week. I know that the ceiling, that the expectations are higher and that we should expect more from them. I get that. I understand that. That's totally fair. I'm not arguing that point at all. But, like, are you really going to tell me that the Tyreek Hill trade was a bad trade? Like, really? You're going to tell me that? Like, Jalen Ramsey, a good player. I think at the time, again, process-oriented. Are we really going to do revisionist history? We're going to go back and say, getting Jalen Ramsey for a 3rd-round pick and Hunter Long was a bad trade. Look, it didn't work out. I get it. It was not as good as it probably should have been or needed to be in some ways, right? And I get that. But is that really bad process? We're going to go back and be like, we should have kept a 3rd-round pick in Hunter Long? Really? Like, come on. You want to argue they shouldn't have given Ramsey the contract last year? That's a fair argument. I'll have that argument. Like, that's fine. I get that. But the trade,
that's where they messed.
That's where they messed up. I completely agree with that. That's totally fair. But like acquiring Jalen Ramsey in the first place, like, dude, I'd take Jalen Ramsey over 3rd round pick and Hunter Long today.
I agree. And but again, the player acquisition was fine, and then they didn't hit on all their draft picks. Clearly, I mean, when they could have had Justin Jefferson instead of Austin Jackson, they could have had Jonathan Taylor instead of Noah Benogany. No one can argue that part of it. To me, where it started going downwards a little bit is when they started handing out all the contracts, and they became fiscally irresponsible, and they kind of like sent everything in the wrong direction. So we've gone an hour. That's going to wrap it up. He is Dante Collinelli. Check out his fine work at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. You see the Twitter handle at Dante Collinelli. Catch my work at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. We'll be back with another episode of the All Dolphins podcast sometime on Monday. I'm guessing late afternoon. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.